Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. I'm Evan Mack, as always, joined by Mr. Ross Reed over here, and we are coming at you on a Thursday evening post the NFL draft. Remember to follow Barroom Network at Barroom Network, of course, for all the draft coverage that they had. You can catch all of the analysis and breakdown on the Barroom Network channel here on YouTube. If you're watching live with us, you can remember to comment to all the Barflies. Thanks for watching, listening in. You can listen to the previous podcast that we've recorded, of course, on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your media. Remember to like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. We got a lot to get to on the show this evening as we are recapping the draft at length. It unfolded mostly as we expected with 1 and 9, and then we'll react to the other three players who perhaps get the chance to don Bears jerseys in this 2024-25 season. We'll talk about the winners and losers of the NFL draft as well, and then the NBA playoffs. First round's almost wrapped up. Some teams have swept already or moved on, about half the teams, and it's winding down onto the second round, which will have some exciting matchups as well. Talk about this Kendrick versus Drake beef that we wanted to kick our summer off with. But yeah, here we are. Ross, how you feeling post-draft? Feeling good about your Bears?
We're here. Yes, we talked about last week the long wait to the inevitable, and now that we've gotten past it, I think everybody is collectively exhaled as Bears fans. And then now I think we can now enjoy our spring and summer, although they're going to have I believe they've got a rookie mini camp as early as this weekend coming up.
Right.
So football doesn't stop. But yes, I think everybody is just excited now at the prospect of what we're going to see going forward. But yeah, absolutely. It was a good week last week. Obviously, it was a good last Thursday night.
Good last Thursday night, just to kick it off, and then between that and the Bears' 9th overall pick with Roman Odunze, excuse me, and then we'll get to the other three fellas as well. But it was a big win for the offense, of course, as we knew as we dive into it that the Bears were going to be drafting Caleb Williams. It was, as Ryan Poles said, he had the NFL told him to wait 5 minutes to make the pick. They got to milk the TV time and the analysis before they can actually say the pick is in and go to Roger Goodell announcing it. But they knew they wanted Caleb Williams, and the call was great if you listened into that as well. As Caleb Williams joked, like, you've known for months, right? And he seems to really have embraced the whole going to the Bears number 1 overall, as we knew, just to be going number 1 overall. How could you not embrace it if you're Caleb Williams, who's been in the spotlight for so long, and now it can officially begin as he dons number 18, as Ross alluded to. Probably the most famous to wear 18 would be Mr. Peyton Manning. So I can't name a Bears quarterback who has donned 18 in a long time, of course, or any real Bears player.
Cal Orton.
That's true. He did rock an 18, and he was probably the last good player to wear 18, I feel like, for that matter. And so now, Caleb Williams, he's come to Chicago already. He's spoken to the media. He's doing his claw everywhere. It's entertaining, and he was psyched for the Bears to pick Odunze at number 9 overall. There was no surprise at number 1, as we talked about, Ross, and like you said, it's kind of like a weight off your shoulders now that it's finally happened, and the hype will just continue to grow as Caleb Williams enters the rookie mini camp and gets to know all the guys in his offense and throughout the team, and gets to know Coach Eberflus and Ryan Poles, of course. So he's he's that incumbent face of the franchise now that Justin Fields, possible kick returner Justin Fields, has left, and boy, that's craziness out of Pittsburgh. But yeah, I mean, I know your reaction as well as I know mine. We're really psyched. I think getting more at number 9, it just seemed like a no-brainer, perhaps, that the Bears would maybe go edge, look for Dallas Turner, someone like that, or offensive line. But getting Roman Odunze, I've struggled with his name so mightily, at number 9 was a big hit for Caleb Williams and the Bears overall. So those first 2 picks just really filled great needs for the Bears. Obviously, quarterback at number 1.
It was, and you saw 10 wide receivers go at the top 32 or 33 picks in the draft, I believe, last Thursday. So it was,
that's crazy.
And 6 quarterbacks also went. So 16 of the 33 picks last week were either a quarterback or a wide receiver, and that's just the theme of where the NFL is going forward right now. You see various rule changes. Pass interference calls, roughing the passer. Now you see the way that the kickoff has changed. You could tell. You even heard Roger Goodell last week. I watched his interview on NFL Network. He outright said, "We are trying to get the league to a more offensive, minded league," and that's where it's at right now. So you have to have an elite quarterback if you want to go out there and win a Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes, we saw last, in Super Bowl, literally put his team on his back in overtime against Brock Purdy and got the win. And then you need an elite weapon to go with that elite quarterback. And I do think that Roman Odunze is that guy. We talked about last week, the Bears coming away from this draft with 2 blue chip players. I don't care what happened the rest of the draft. To me, it was all irrelevant. It was kind of like, getting the Caesar salad or the scallop, potatoes with the Wagyu beef and the lobster tail, right? Everything else is just extra. We care about the main courses, and that's what Caleb Williams is and Roman Odunze. They got 2 awesome young blue chip athletes who also genuinely like each other, have this great chemistry with each other. We saw it leading up to the draft. They're on the same airplane with each other. They already have workouts with each other. Caleb goes in after, as soon as Rome gets drafted, and he's sneaking in on his Zoom as Rome is meeting with the media. These guys are going to be attached at the hip with each other for the next, hopefully, 10 plus years in Chicago. And I think that's really awesome and really exciting to see. I think Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, and the rest of the Bears staff knocked it out the park. You can never have too many weapons, especially for a young guy like Caleb Williams coming into the league. So now you've got DJ Moore. He's still your number 1 wide receiver, and he is going to now get even more looks because the defense has to really keep themselves honest with everybody else on the football field. You've got Keenan Allen, who is just a professional wide receiver. He's a tactician. He's a guy that's going to be able to really take Odunze underneath his wing and really kind of show him the ropes a little bit. He's up there in age a little bit. He's 32, 33 years old, and also he does need a new contract soon. So he's not in the long-term plans with the Chicago Bears, but it allows Roman Odunze to come along here, at a moderate pace to start his career, not feel like he's thrust into a lot of weight on his shoulders. Unlike the 2 guys that were drafted before him, Marvin Harrison Jr., a very different conversation. Malik Neighbors, who has to catch passes now from Daniel Jones. Those guys are basically thrown into the fire immediately, and they're going to have to contribute right away. And I think it's gonna be awesome for Odunze to get there. I do think Odunze is going to be a impact player as you get closer to the red zone because of his elite ability to get physical, to body up defenders, and he's an amazing route runner, especially around the goal line. So I think that's where you're going to really see him shine as a rookie. But again, shout out to the Bears. I feel like I'm 42 years old. Like I've never seen this in my entire life. A Bears team that has been this offensive minded, that's gone out there and got elite offensive talent. I'm from the era of where we drafted your Curtis Enos's of the world and your David Terrells of the world, right? And we talked about Cade McNown last week, and just guys you just didn't feel good about, even in the moment when they were drafted. Yeah, exactly. And now we're here now with 2 just awesome football players, awesome talented guys. But also, I think most importantly, we learned throughout the weekend, and I'll shut up here, is these are good kids. Like you saw them in their first meeting in House Hall. You saw them at their press conference. they sound amazing. They say the right things, but they sound very genuine. And it's really exciting to see, because right now, even as a Bears fan, even Chicago sports as a whole, we need this. we need this bad right now. We need some good quality young talent that we can latch onto and say, these are our guys. These are our next crop of superstars coming up.
You hit it on the head, Ross, and just touching on quarterback, as we know, Ross, we've never seen a guy in a Bears uniform throw for over 4,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns. We haven't seen them put up numbers like a Kirk Cousins or like a Pat Mahomes or like a Herbert. It just makes you jealous throughout the league when you're just reaching for it. And now, such a great situation for Caleb Williams to get into, as you touched on, when Keenan Allen and DJ Moore on the field, then who's got to cover Rome Odunze? And then he's going to really benefit from double teaming those other guys. Age certainly plays a factor, but it works in Odunze's favor when he's getting to work under those two guys, and he's just a big, solid target for Caleb Williams, not to mention Cole Kmet and Swift out of the backfield. Like, it just really feels that way, Ross. Like you said, we need it. It's been the whole mantra of the Bears is just win on defense and takeaways and all this. Like, why can't they keep up with the league and the Chiefs and the 49ers of the world, where they go and have a potent offense like these other teams? And a lot, of course, rides on the coaching now at this point and their development of Caleb Williams, because we saw the offense could be pretty anemic at times last year, whether it be Fields or the play calling. But now there's really feel like no excuses besides the coaching when Caleb Williams has this legendary arm talent already breaking coaches, rings in practice and things like that. If you've seen any of the hype around him, it's going to be cool. It was very cool to see him and see Caleb Williams, that is, and Rome Odunze, do their pressers and get to know Chicago a little bit. And it's awesome. I think that obviously the expectations are high for this offense to turn it around right away, and just be completely different than last year's. But I'm super psyched about it. What can you say about Odunze? He's I didn't know a ton of it about him just from the tape, but he seems like, again, he seems like a winner, and he's an incumbent, potential number one receiver if Keenan Allen does, God forbid something doesn't work out, and DJ Moore, that you have a young guy to kind of spell these fellas and really learn a lot under them, as you mentioned, Ross. That's a huge thing for that wide receiver room.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we talk about now Caleb Williams comes in here in, quite possibly the best situation ever for a first overall quarterback. He's got at his arsenal a plethora of weapons right now. We talked about DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, but you can't forget now Cole Kmet is your fourth option in the passing game right now, right?
Yeah,
he basically was the second leading receiver for the Bears last year, and he's been a very steady pro in his career. You can't forget that that Swift out the backfield that they signed from the Eagles is a very good pass catcher as well. And we know that Shane Waldron, coming from Seattle, loves to use the running backs in the passing game as well. They also signed Gerald Everett, who's a veteran, tight end. He's got experience with Waldron as well, from the Seahawks and the Rams program. And you got all these guys in the football field, and there's talent, and there are veteran players out there. And I think that bodes well for Caleb Williams, who is just a master tactician at the game. I think a lot of people who don't know already are going to find out sooner than later. He has all the fundamentals. He is a true student of the game. You watch him play, he looks a lot like Aaron Rodgers back there. He's got also a lot of Drew Brees to his game, but his footwork is impeccable. He wants to stay in the pocket. He wants to be able to go through his progressions, find the second, third, and even fourth read of the options. Even if he gets out on the edge, it's not to run. His eyes don't ever drop. He's looking to get the football down the field and get it to his weapons and succeed. And so I think the future is very promising. I love everything. And, of course, the biggest thing, we want all these guys to stay healthy. And if they do, I don't see any reason why the Bears can't compete for a playoff spot even this year. I think the NFC is down this year. You still have your usual suspects at the top. 49ers, Eagles. Eagles had a good draft. But from there, it could be anybody's, a couple spots. Remember, we get a last, open spot there. I even think the division's up for grabs for a little bit too. I know everybody is on the Lions, as they should be, because they're a very talented team. But the Bears have played the Lions very tough the last couple of years, right? And the defense matches up against that Lions team very well. And so I think this is going to be a very feisty team this year, the Bears team. We could talk about schedule stuff. That schedule sounds like it might come out either next Thursday or the Thursday after. But I also think that the NFL sees what the Bears are doing and sees the star power or star potential, I should say, of Caleb Williams. And I'm going to predict right now the Bears are going to get 5 primetime games this year, 5 of them. So be prepared for some late nights, Bears fans, because the entire world, the entire league is going to want to see Caleb Williams in this Bears team as much as possible.
Yeah, no question. And the hype should certainly, it's huge for a good reason. Like everything you talked about, Ross, just the intangibles that Caleb Williams possesses, they're great. When you think about the talent that this Bears organization has had at quarterback, this is the purest, a Heisman winner, obviously in the spotlight throughout high school, playing in a big stage. Just the stories around Caleb Williams, it's so cool. He has a great attitude about him. And again, Rome Odunze, just like a great weapon to have in addition to the other guys we mentioned. I mean, now it's just really just waiting for mini camp, of course, and training camp. We'll see the tape and see some of this chemistry start to build, as we've seen in the comments here. As Thomas Gage pointed out, that this was being built before these players were even drafted. Caleb Williams was a big fan of Odunze. How about the hologram moment too? That was weird, but I also enjoyed that in the draft when those guys came to the draft party as holograms. It was a trip. This is the future, Ross.
This is the future. Right? At least it wasn't like some kind of weird.
Next,
yeah, I was gonna say some kind of AI thing, right?
yeah, no question. But we haven't even touched on the rest of the draft, Ross, and an Illinois native, perhaps maybe a bit of a steal in a lot of people's eyes at offensive line. Should he get healthy? An Illinois native, Kieran Omega DJ, who's a Yale scholar.
Nice
about it, Ross. He's all. I tried it. It's better. Odunze, the Nigerian names. I hope I'm doing them justice. People can talk all the shit they want in the comments. But yeah, first team all Ivy League, and again, had a little bit of an injury history. But Ryan Poles said, "quote You love the tools that he has. His pass pro is really good. Love his length, hand usage, and a big man that we believe is going to continue to get bigger and more explosive. So it should really increase the competition on our offensive line and make everyone better. You got to have bodies on the offensive line, as we know, and throughout the league and Bears in the last couple of years or so. It's just a next man up mentality. You got to have players on the offensive line who are able to switch around and pick up where other guys left off. So the depth is good. What did you think of that pick for the Bears with their 3rd pick in the draft?
I liked it a lot. Listen, this kid plays angry. I know he's had some injuries. He's recovering. I think he probably would have went sooner if it wasn't for the injuries. He's a big body. He's still very raw. But remember, both Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham come from an offensive line background. I think they want to get this guy in their system and allow him to get up to speed, and be able to develop without the pressure of having to go out there and start right away. And I think that's going to be very important for him. So, Chris Morgan is the new offensive line coach. He's also the offensive game coordinator. He's going to be a guy that is going to be able to work with him hand in hand and kind of get him up to speed. I think this is a pick more so for the future. You've got to keep an eye on Braxton Jones, right? Braxton Jones right now, I believe he's got 2 years left under his contract. He is very much so an extension candidate. I'm not trying to kick him out of there, but I do think that this is a little bit of an insurance pick to where if you don't feel like you want to sign Braxton Jones, or you think that he might get overvalued on the open market, or you might want to pay him more, this might be the guy that develops and steps in to be able to take his place. And so and even if not, at the very least, it's a sport of attrition. It's 17 games, hopefully plus playoff games. Guys get banged up all the times. Guys get injured. saw Darnell Wright get a little banged up. We saw even Braxton Jones miss some games last year. So you need to have depth all across your offensive line, again, because nobody's going to care if it's week 15, week 16, and your starting left tackle's not playing. You still have to go out there and win a tough football game to be able to make a playoff push. So I do like the pick a lot.
Yep, a Hinsdale Central alumni, and as Thomas pointed out, a Magaji. Easy enough. Look at that, the phonetics. I appreciate it from the barflies in the chat. Depth there is good, but you know what I like, Ross, of course, is the special teams pick, and like Viso Joe was alluding to, Torrey Taylor, and it was hilarious that they had a British super fan just trolling Detroit and the rest of the NFC North come up and announce the pick for Torrey Taylor and him getting the call. He's the Aussie from Iowa, and I remember watching Pat McAfee hyping this guy up and seeing his highlights. He knows how to pin these teams deep, man, in the coffin corner. He it was incredible, and it was fun to see his reaction to getting drafted, of course, when it's nuts to see a special teamer go in the 4th round, but as the Bears brass alluded to, if he was that they felt like he couldn't drop any further, otherwise they would have really missed out on an opportunity there. So the wave Trenton Gill, making room for Torrey Taylor. I think it makes a lot of sense, even though Caleb Williams joked that you're not going to be punting a lot to get this young man in there. And again, if he plays like he did at Iowa, he's certainly another weapon where you can pin teams deep, and that's a huge part of the game, as we know, is field position, pinning them at the 1 or the 2. Let's go, man. What'd you think of the Torrey Taylor draft?
Yeah, I had no problems with where he was drafted at. Listen, I think the Bears come out of this draft potentially with 3 all-pro players right now, right? I talked about 2 blue chip players. Add the third one in there. He's basically just a punter, right? I mean, he's a punter, but I think he has the potential to probably be the best punter in the league much sooner than later. And you hit it on the head. It's much different to pin a guy like Jared Goff or Jordan Love within the 20. Let's throw a hypothetical out there, right? You're up by 4 points. It's a December football game. It's Soldier Field. It's less than 2 minutes left. And you're putting the football back into the opposing team's hands. I want that punter to be able to pin a guy like Jordan Love or Jared Goff in the 20-yard line and have our defense be able to take control with that crowd and be able to seal a game, rather than what we saw the last couple of years from Trenton Gill, which was probably like a 34 or 35-yard punt, and he gives them a short field. So I'm a huge fan of the pick. This kid's freaking massive. He's like 6'4", 240 pounds. Yeah, absolutely. He's a big kid. He's going to be a fan favorite. My biggest gripe with it is him wearing number 19 or something. What number did he pick? Number 19. That looks pretty strange for a punter. But this was Iowa's obviously best weapon all season long, right?
Yeah. Ray Guy winner,
him and Cooper DeJean. So I love the pick. Special teams, I think, is going to matter. Special teams always matters, but I think going forward this year and into the future is going to matter a whole lot more than it has in the last couple of years. Field position, kickoff returns, pitting teams deep, things of that matter. These are going to be a major factor. And I love it. I think special teams, seeing that come back to the forefront a little bit in the NFL is really exciting. I think the Bears, again, I love the pick, because he's going to be here 10, 15 years. He's probably going to make 8, 9, 10 Pro Bowls. Nobody's going to care if 3-4 years from now where he was drafted at. Just can remember that he's an awesome punter.
Well, yeah, again, the best punter in the draft, so take him. Why not in that position? Odunze wearing 15. Caleb Williams, as we talked about, wearing 18. Ross, you were right. Wearing 19, very much a punter. And then Kieran I'm going to call him Kieran, wearing 72. And then the last pick of the Bears in the draft, perhaps a steal at edge, was Austin Booker out of Kansas, filling an edge need, right? When we talk about, the door is not closed on Yannick Ngakoue coming back. What the Bears have in Sweat as their elite pass rusher now at this point, but you want some youth at that position. And he comes in as a rookie. The Kansas program wasn't very strong particularly, but he stood out. And certainly is an athletic young man. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. Did you like that as the last pick of the Bears 2024 draft, Ross?
I did like it, and I liked Ryan Poles getting back into the draft to pick it up. The draft capital that was given up was very minimal. Before he had made that trade to get back up there, the Bears had 11 draft picks go for the 2025 draft. You don't need that many draft picks next year. So I like them going out there and getting Austin Booker. Austin Booker has drawn some comparisons already. I'm just telling you what other people are saying to Max Crosby, of course. I think he's got to get a little bit bigger. He's got to probably gain about another 15 pounds or so to kind of get up to the size of Crosby and the power. But he's a young man. He's going to be able to get there. This guy's going to start his career in Chicago as a rotational pass rusher, which I think is perfect because I was never a big fan of some of the guys that they've had over the last couple of years as a rotational passer. Dominique Robinson is one that catches my mind as somebody that I think that was – didn't do his best out there, unfortunately. But I do think that guys are going to be able to eat opposite Montez Sweat. You hit it on the head. Yannick Ngakoue showed a video today on Twitter of him kind of working on that ankle a little bit and doing a little bit of cut drills and some sprinting. That broken ankle looks good. I expect for the Bears and his team to kind of come back together and sign another 1-year deal that is very team friendly. And I think you're going to be able to see a kind of defensive end by committee opposite side Montez Sweat and be able to rotate guys in Ngakoue as well as some other young guys. Remember, some of those guys on the defense, you saw their sack numbers be able to increase after Montez Sweat got there. That's the Sweat factor. So I think Austin Booker is a very good fit. Steal in the 5th round because he's going to be able to go out there and give you anywhere between 15 to 20 snaps a football game.
That'd be great. He was first team all Big 12. He's a big body, 6'6", 250. Started Minnesota and then found his way to Kansas. But, he played in the Midwest, played in Indiana as well. So it's nice, again, to have a breath of fresh air. And he talked about that Montez Sweat tutelage that he's looking forward to. And you can't, again, understate enough how important it is to learn from these vets who are successful like a Sweat. So all in all, filled a lot of needs. Obviously, free agency is not done, and those fellows who didn't get drafted, and it's a long way before we trim the training camp attendees to the 53-man roster, but really just plugged in a lot of needs. Were you mad about anything that happened with the Bears, Ross, as far as them not picking a certain guy who was there or filling a positional need?
Not at all. Not at all. It was all about Caleb. It was all about Rome. After that, like I said, everything else was just gravy on top of it.
You didn't get cute with number 9. You just went for best player available, big wide receiver.
Absolutely. And they picked the best player available. They picked the best possible player for the Bears going forward. So absolutely, the way that whole board fell out, came about. Shout out to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a minute. I don't think that transpires the way the Bears wanted it to go and how it went. If the Falcons don't make that just egregious decision at number 8, what they did with Michael Penix.
Yeah. Man, and then in the comments here, folks are already talking about an 8-win, 9-win, as much as a 10-win season here. Quite a turnaround for the Bears. That would be, with these additions, Ross, where are you leaning towards right now? You leaning towards double digits?
I would put the over-under for the Bears right now at 9 wins. I've seen it for the most part around 7.5. It's even jumped up to 8.5 in some places. Last year was about 7 wins. And I put them about 9 wins right now. I think that's fair. Remember, they're also playing the 4th place schedule this year, so they should have a little bit of a lighter schedule. Now, we do have a London game this year. That's going to be a factor as well in terms of travel and things of that nature. But I think it's very realistic, especially the way that they finished late. And I think that Matt Eberflus has improved as a coach, especially once he started calling the defensive plays. You've got a more stable coaching staff situation. I'm a huge fan of Shane Waldron. I think he's more than competent offensive coordinator. He's a very good offensive coordinator in this league. I got the Bears at 9 wins, and obviously that could creep up, 1 or 2 wins more depending on health and just even the way the ball bounces from some of these random close games.
And shout out again to Ryan Poles. You can't give him enough credit just for getting them into the position to get Caleb Williams. We've talked about him making his mark before, and we'll see if hopefully Caleb Williams pans out and gets him a ring in this franchise right back to where they should be. But, Carolina getting Bryce Young and the Bears getting turning, that draft haul into DJ Moore. Well, getting DJ Moore and then turning that into Darnell Wright and Tyreek Stevenson, and now getting Caleb Williams in there is just really incredible. And things are looking up. As we said, it's pretty down throughout the sports world in Chicago otherwise. So, the next, the Cubs and Sox are stinking. And as we know, the Blackhawks and Bulls just ended. So next up, the Sky, of course, there's hype there. But also, with Bears football coming back soon this fall, it's going to be a mad rush this is going to do wonders for ticket sales and traffic and everything like that. You saw that Caleb Williams was setting records for his jersey sales right after he got drafted as well. The effect is really, he's got a superstar future here in Chicago. That is for sure.
Well, absolutely. We need it. We deserve it as Chicago's fans.
We do, and we got to hold our breath a little bit, but at least they weren't getting cute. As we go to the rest of the draft, Ross and Jaden Daniels, the two more quarterbacks went right after Caleb Williams. Jaden it was really who was going to go 2-3 between Drake May and Jaden Daniels, and Daniels out of LSU went to Washington. Drake May to the Patriots. Number 4, like we talked about, who has to get thrown into the fire pretty quickly, Marvin Harrison Jr., and hopefully Kyler Murray found his new best friend there. Probably the easiest pick of the draft for just fell into the Chargers' lap was Joe Alt, and as you alluded to, Malik Neighbors. It was very wide receiver heavy throughout that first round, as you said. The first round ended with a couple wide receivers as well. Offensive line filling the needs there, but yeah, the quarterbacks, it was pretty unbelievable as we talk about winners and losers here on Mac and Reed. And the head scratching move, it really wasn't a sexy move when it got the time to be the Titans pick as well. Getting an offensive tackle from Alabama was just a necessary need, and I think a best player available situation. But I know that Atlanta fans, Falcons fans, were very confused. And certainly Kirk Cousins was kind of mad about using that 8th overall pick on a Michael Penix Jr. But the reality is, I think the defense for it is that Kirk Cousins is, in that very much the back nine of his career. If you're drafting a quarterback in that position, if you're Atlanta, you're thinking that you want someone to be, do kind of what Jordan Love was doing with Aaron Rodgers, or try to, Mahomes learning behind Alex Smith, whoever you want to point it to. You don't want to throw a guy in there right away. And they thought that Penix showed a lot of promise in college, and that was where it was coming from. Do you side one way or the other with that pick, Ross?
So I want to say I like Michael Penix a lot, and I think that he's got the opportunity to be a really good pro in this league. I just don't like the fact that now he has to sit behind Kirk Cousins for, I think, a minimum of 2 years. And because, Kirk Cousins signs a 4-year deal, it's over $100 million. You're paying this guy a lot of guaranteed money. He's going to be there for at least 2 years. They've got it out after 2 years from now. But let's say Kirk Cousins does this for 2 years and then Penix takes over. And all of a sudden, Penix will be, 25 years old. That's a little bit older that I would want. This is a guy coming off of 2 torn injuries. You're also 2 years into a rookie deal. You don't know what you have in him, but then you're going to be forced to maybe pick up that 5th-year option. And you're really squeezing the timeline a little bit. And to me, it's like, in my opinion, you sign Kirk Cousins to make a playoff push sooner than later. For 3 years in a row, you've gone offense. You've gone Drake London, you've gone Bijan Robinson, and you've gone Kyle Pitts, right? And so there are weapons around there. In reality, they needed to beef up their defense a little bit to be able to compete in a very winnable NFC South. And instead of doing that, they went out there and they drafted a kid who is going to be sitting on the bench for a while. And Brew, I was right. I'm sorry, I misread. He's already 25 years old. Or he will, yeah, he just turned 25 years old, or he turns 25, excuse me, May 8th is his birthday. He was born in year 2000. So he's about to turn 25 soon. So he'll be 27 by the time he's starting quarterback in the league right now. That's just insane to me. And so if I were Kirk Cousins, I'd be pissed off. I thought that Penix should have went to a place that he was going to give an opportunity to maybe compete for a starting job sooner than later. Maybe a place like the Broncos or something like that. So I don't know what the Falcons are doing. You spent a top 10 pick on a player that is not even going to play for you. It's very different than like the Jordan Love situation and the Aaron Rodgers situation and things of that nature. And that puts a lot of heat on Cousins, right? And all of a sudden, let's say Kirk Cousins, let's say they start 2-6 out the gate, or are you going to bench him? Are you going to put all that money on the bench, right? It makes for a very uncomfortable locker room, a very uncomfortable quarterback room. I just don't get it at all. If I were them, I would have traded back, stockpiled some more picks, and then pick the first and best available defensive player, a guy like Byron Murphy or Latu or something like that.
Yeah, certainly, as you touched on, Ross, Atlanta's defense has kind of been a turnstile as well. So just pick someone there. But if you're going to bolster the offense too, it's insane. And as the comments pointed out, to really pass up Odunze, and Bears were saying like, all right, we're happy to take him at 9, as a lot of mocks projected him to do so. But again, as we talked about, so quarterback hungry this draft, as it usually is year after year. I feel like every year, whether it's a strong class or weak class, at least 5 quarterbacks go in that first round. After that, JJ McCarthy going to the Vikings. We knew that was a big scenario where that might be happening. He'd be thrown into the fire right away. Could be the starter, day 1 starter for the Vikings. Don't see a ton of competition for him there potentially. Bo Nix, again, I think a lot of people think that he has the most potential besides Penix, but Penix won't start right away. You don't know what's going to happen with Denver. They could be in a terrible position post Russell Wilson, but he could be one of those, biggest busts in the draft. Olaf Fashanu, I think you mocked him to the Jets last week when we talked about that, Ross, and it certainly makes a lot of sense for Aaron Rodgers to get that help on the offensive line. I think Oakland, whoever they trot out at quarterback, they get a real blue chip talent with Brock Bowers. And again, Byron Murphy, a solid pick for the Seahawks. I think the Vikings sort of win that first round when they traded to get Dallas Turner as well. That's scary for, the Bears and the Lions and the Green Bay Packers as well, when they think about the potential of that young man. I think he's, arguably the best edge rusher in this class. But yeah, I mean, no real huge surprises. I do think that a lot of these teams, reach for wide receivers, as I alluded to. The last 2 picks in the draft were for wide receiver. Purcell out of Florida going to the 49ers, and Leggett going to the Panthers. A little weapon for Bryce Young as well. Xavier Worthy going to the Chiefs. I think that's a necessary weapon for them. They drafted well. Again, talking about winners and losers, we talked about the Falcons and what we're doing there. But what team stuck out to you is hitting well in that first round and beyond in the draft overall this past week?
Yeah, to me, the Philadelphia Eagles stay being the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're another big winner again. Howie Roseman might be the best drafter in the NFL right now. The fact that he was able to get Quinyon Mitchell, the defensive back from Toledo. He was able to get Cooper DeJean. We talked about defensive back from Iowa. He pairs those guys with guys like they've got Darius Slay there already. They got James Bradbury there already. They're basically going to be daring teams with that pass rush that they already have to try and throw the football on them with those young guys. And then they already have Jalen Hurts, right? They already have Saquon Barkley, but then you kind of add in Will Shipley, as a mix it up kind of running back guy, and they're just going to play physical smash mouth football and dare teams to throw on them. I love the way the Eagles draft. They maximize their picks. The Jaden Daniels thing aside, and I say that aside because I'm not a huge fan of him. I have some trepidations about him, but overall, I think the Commanders did have a good draft. I like Ben Sinnett a lot. He's a tight end. He's going to really help out Jaden Daniels and as a good security blanket. Same thing with Luke McCaffrey. We know the McCaffrey pedigree in the NFL, right? And so I like their draft. I think they got some really good athletes there as well. I think Buffalo getting Keon Coleman was key. He had some very fun clips when he got to Buffalo for the first time, and he seems like he's going to be a fun player. The anti Stephon Diggs, and that's exactly what Josh Allen needs. Is a good wide receiver with all the diva nonsense. So I think those are the teams that I like. I think the Steelers as well. Let me throw the Steelers in there because the Steelers,
for sure.
The Steelers went 3 nasty kids on the offensive line, and they're going to basically tell you we're going to line up, We're going to run the football. We've got Russell Wilson. We've got Justin Fields. We've got Jalen Warren. We've got Najee Harris. We're going to do a lot of play action. We're going to grind it out. We're going to smash you in the mouth. And then on the other side, TJ Watt is going to smash you in the mouth too. But they got Troy Fatunatu, right? Who's the offensive tackle. They picked up Zach Frazier. They picked up Roman Wilson. They just like completely revamped their offensive line. I think they hit a home run with that.
It's not sexy, but that's how you win games, right? Is going through the trenches. You certainly need, with their, the blessings that they have at running back, and now you add whoever's going to be a quarterback. You would think that this offense is in a good position to certainly move the chains regularly.
It's a division with Myles Garrett and Patrick Queen. You got to stop those guys. Those Browns games, those Ravens games, they get dirty, and you need some big dudes on the other side to be able to protect your quarterback.
Yeah, no question. And I think, like you touched on all the winners in my eyes. I think Arizona's filling needs. It's just very much their success is tied to the quarterback position. It hasn't lived up to the hype, I feel like, all around there. The champs, adding a little bit of wide receiver talent to their locker room, I think, is important to have more weapons for Mahomes. We saw the non-draft news was Kelsey signing a 2-year deal, which was great for the team too, and cap space and all that, which we expected that to happen. We saw, the Cowboys re-signing Zeke Elliott. Their running back room is very odd right now with the departure of Tony Pollard. It doesn't look like I couldn't tell you who would lead that way. Maybe it would be Zeke just sliding back in his old position, but not a ton of movers, and it remains to be seen, right, with a lot of these guys outside of this top 5, top 10 who will shine. And I know that rookie of the year, going back to the Caleb Williams conversation, he's the favorite. Usually it's heavily weighted towards the quarterbacks, but you never know what kind of impact a Marvin Harrison Jr. might have for the team, or one of these young rookie wide receivers out there. I don't know about Malik Neighbors. I know that he's probably pretty bummed that he has to be catching passes from Daniel Jones or the kid from Jersey, if God forbid Daniel Jones gets hurt again, if they retained him. It remains to be seen, but no huge surprises, I feel like, on day one and beyond in the draft. But like you talked about, just really solid picks by, the Eagles, a franchise who's done it well before, makes a ton of sense. Back to the Steelers, I was alluded to it earlier. What are you thinking about this Justin Fields being floated at kick returner deal? How nuts would that be? He's like now Terrell Pryor. This is unbelievable.
Right. Or Antoine Randall, who was another great ex-Steeler, great Chicago athlete.
He's just an athlete, not a quarterback no more.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
And they signed Cordell Patterson. So they have Cordell, who's literally one of the 5 best kick returners of all time. I think Jalen Warren probably heard something jokingly in a room somewhere, and somebody made a joke, and then he ran with it on a podcast, and like many things on Twitter, it just spreads like wildfire. I can't believe that they would put Justin Fields back there as a kick returner. I know, you might think that he's an electric athlete with the ball in his hands, because he is, but that'd be one of the foolish things you can do, is putting one of your 2 best quarterbacks out there to return kicks. That's the fastest way to get that kid killed, and it just doesn't make any sense. So I think it's a nothing thing. It was fun on Twitter for a couple hours today, but come opening day, I'm pretty sure Justin Fields will be, at least to start the season, QB2, and Cordell Patterson will be your number 1 kick returner for the Steelers.
You can't use your de facto number 2 quarterback as a kick returner. I think that's just a fucking rule of thumb too. So to see that headline come out was pretty confusing as well. But I mean, there's no question Justin Fields, when he is able to run the ball in his hands, he's got great field vision to do that. But I mean, make sure he's ready, because we know Russell Wilson is 1 hit away from just imploding into dust. And so we'll see how that goes. We've talked at length about football, Ross, and we're in the final quarter of our show here. Let's talk NBA playoffs, as the first round has mostly wrapped up. Where the good round, of course, is the Clippers and Mavericks, as the Mavericks took a 3-2 lead last night, and then Cleveland and the Magic. We saw Cleveland take a lead 3-2 in Game 6 of the Bucks Pacers game, and Bucks looking like they might get eliminated down 12 right now at halftime. Bucks have been short-handed. Bobby Portis got ejected a couple games ago, and they were without Dame Lillard and Giannis. Just that loss of Giannis is huge. The Knicks and Sixers series, if you watch that game, the last game they had, what was it, last night or the night before, it was pretty incredible to see Tyrese Maxey just not sweat and play 48 minutes and hit, big shot after big shot in the Garden to force, a game 6 in Philly. That's a real fun series, just living up to the hype there. But of the sweeps, the sweeps and just the 4-1 series, the 5-game series, the Thunder playing up to their hype. I think the Celtics just blowing out the Heat last night was really expected. Timberwolves are for real, man. Just sweeping the Suns, who had a lot of hype around them and superstar talent, sweeping them again with Anthony Edwards leading the charge. He is just really coming into his own as perhaps that new face of the NBA, as we saw LeBron playing just another year where he was out in the first round, which we have not used to seeing. You look at last year and the year before, this year and the year before that, I should say, and losing on a dagger like that too. But they were just clawing to any hopes of a game 6 as well. Not surprising. I think that really does set up well for a Timberwolves Nuggets series. That'll be a lot of fun. And then, man, I'm excited to see again who comes out with the Cavs and the Magic series. I think the Pacers have been underrated all season, with Tyrese Halliburton and the rest of this team really making noise in the East. So we'll see. And it's a spicy series with the Mavericks and the Clippers. There's some bad blood there as well. You've been watching, Ross. How have you liked the first round so far in the NBA playoffs overall?
I've been watching a lot. I can't do another what a pro wants, what a pro needs commercial anymore, or the wing stop that no flex zone. I can't do any more of those commercials anymore. But to the basketball, I think if you were power ranking these playoff teams right now, you'd have Minnesota, OKC, Denver, Boston probably as your top 4 teams right now in that order. Anthony Davis has just been absolutely phenomenal. You hate to put the MJ comparison out there, but he looks like a young Michael Jordan with what he's doing out there. The athleticism, the skills, the trash talking, the ability to take these teams over. Kevin Durant was his idol, and he just smoked him, right? Like a Philly blunt the other night, and just took him out. And they're a fun team. They can play defense. They can score. I am very, very anxious to watch game 1 Saturday night, I believe it is, of Minnesota versus Denver, because I do think Minnesota matches up the best with anybody because they have the length to throw at Jokic. And same thing, I think Anthony Edwards can guard Jamal Murray, who Jamal Murray just torched the Lakers that whole series, even with a bad calf.
Send them home.
Be fun. Yep, send them home. I love this OKC team. I love this so much. With that crappy commercial aside, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is another budding superstar in this league, and they've got such a fun team. Jaden Daniels is on that team. Chet Holmgren is on that team. We're not going to talk about Josh Giddey, but they got a bunch of other fun guys on that team. They rotate a lot. They basically play a positionless style basketball. And that's how you want to build your team going forward. Sam Presti built that team the right way. Boston is just they're just a relentless offensive team. They can bomb threes from anywhere. They're going to shoot about 40 threes a game. Anybody on the court can shoot. Anybody in the court can hit them. And that's with Porzingis probably going to miss the next series. I don't think that's going to be an issue for them. Rest him up because you're going to need him for the Eastern Conference Finals, and then most importantly, if they ever get to the NBA Finals. But this has been fun. It's been fun. We've had some stinkers. I think last night was a dud all the way around. Right? We saw Boston blow out Miami. The Dallas Clippers game, the Dallas versus Clippers series has been like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. One night the Clippers are awesome. Next night they look garbage. This feels like they could go 7 games and maybe Luka just takes over on the 7th game. But I think the Clippers will bounce back after that. But obviously the other marquee series is probably the most feisty one. Is Knicks versus 76ers. That's just been a brawl of a series, man. You got Knicks fans showing up in Philly and taking over that building, and now the mayor of Philadelphia is upset, and the owner of Philadelphia is buying. He bought 2,000 tickets tonight that were left over, and to give them to first responders because he didn't want to have Knicks fans buy them up. Joel Embiid's playing on one leg. He's got Bell's palsy. He's smacking people in the face. Jalen Brunson is maybe 5'11" on a good day, and he's out there. He's the entire Knicks offense right now, 45 points a game. The playoffs have been fun. I love it. I can't wait I can't wait until we get some of the pretender teams out of here, and then we start to shrink the field a little bit, because I think these series are just going to get better as they go along.
Yeah, in the East, the road goes through the Celtics, as we certainly know, and saw them, put their dominance on display, just getting the Jimmy Butler-less heat out of there at 118-84 to win 4-1 in that series. But, again, don't sleep on the Pacers. Whoever comes out of this Knicks-Sixers series, and it seems like the Knicks, I feel like, will win out here just because, like you mentioned, Embiid, he was gassed this last game, triple-double and all, and there's only so much Tyrese Maxey can do, but he was out of his mind. They just got a good rotation. I feel like they got it down, and they were able to, again, it's huge to win in the Garden the way they did. I know that the refs say they missed a travel on the 4-point play to force it into overtime, but it was still worth it just to see Tracy Morgan flip off Tyrese Maxey. That was a hilarious moment with Ben Stiller next to him. And all the celebs just gawking at that. But yeah, in the West, I love what the Thunder are doing. They're just SGA is certainly in that MVP conversation, one of the best offensive players out there. But they're just a well-rounded team. They play good defense. And then the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top there. I think we would likely see if the seeding was to ride out a Thunder and Nuggets Western Conference Finals, and in which case I wouldn't be mad at that. It's kind of, obviously the reigning champs against the up and coming Anthony Edwards, who dropped 40 against Devin Booker and company. Devin Booker dropped 49 in that losing effort, but man, it's exciting. It's like you said, Ross. We just got to kind of get these pretenders out of here and move on to the next round. But Ross, as we talked about last week, there's some beef going on as we're waiting for the song of the summer to come out. And now Ross, your boy Drake, has dropped Push-Ups, and now Kendrick's response was a 6-minute song, 6-minute plus, Euphoria. And I listened to him back to back because I wanted to see how that played out, as obviously Euphoria is the response to Push-Ups. I feel like, again, people have just not given Kendrick enough credit, and I see all these polls. It's like, well, who had the better diss track and all this? If you're getting into a fight with Kendrick, and Kendrick just went and did this 6-minute song when he just does not put out music regularly like Drake does, like they're just polar opposites in that regard. To see the lyricism on display, and albeit I'm kind of biased just with that hip hop versus Drake's just well-roundedness, pop / hip hop, R&B. He does it all. He's more entertainer than like rapper to me, when Kendrick is just pure rapper. Who's winning this, and is Drake gonna respond? What should we expect? I go to you, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're getting if this was a heavyweight fight, we're getting a couple jabs with each other, and then now I think Kendrick threw the first big uppercut of this battle. So obviously Kendrick is winning. I thought Euphoria was fantastic. You get me every time with the Teddy Pendergrass sample to start a song. The Teddy P sample to start the song. It's one of my favorite Teddy Pendergrass songs. And then the beats switch up, and then he just kind of coasted, and then just lays a smack down the last 8 to 12 bars. It was absolutely outstanding. Rumor is Drake is dropping his response tonight, so this is going to keep going. Obviously, I think that this is just going to be the summer of these two going at it against each other. It's good for business. Like people will always tell you, war is good for business. Same thing in hip hop. War is good for business. These songs are battling back and forth right now, whether it's Push-Ups, whether it's Euphoria, whether it's Like That, which is the Future song that Kendrick was on to kind of kickstart this whole thing. These songs are charting at the top of the Billboard charts right now. You look at Billboard charts right now, these guys are at the top, and that's with a Beyonce project out, and that's with a Taylor Swift project out, and a couple of people have dropped projects, and still you find these three guys at the top of the chart. So people like conflict in their music. They like hip hop beef. You know, we remember, you know, Nas and Jay-Z and how big of a deal that was, and things of that nature. This feels like that. And let's see what Drake's response is. He baited Kendrick for weeks into, you know, let me hear your quadruple entendre, flip this, like you got it. You got it, big dog. He got it. And he swung pretty hard. So now you got to respond. And I think to what you just said, I think Drake knows he can't get into a lyricism battle with Kendrick Lamar. So he's going to try and get into a hit battle with Kendrick Lamar. And I think coming up, you know, Drake is going to try and attempt to come out with his second version of Back to Back. As we know, Back to Back was the second diss track to Meek Mill years ago. It's also a song that Drake won a Grammy for. It was a humongous hit. And I think that's what we try and see Drake do. He's going to try and hit him to death, as opposed to Kendrick, who's just going to throw those lyricism bars at you. But I'm enjoying it.
We'll see.
We're getting good music either way.
Either way, we're getting music from both these guys at the top of their game, and J. Cole seems to be lost in the shuffle of this, you know, the three alphas as they were. But yeah, if you have not listened to Euphoria yet, it's just pretty incredible what these guys are able to do at the top of their games. It's good for all their streams, that's for sure. They're winning, you know, whether whoever's winning the beef or not, whether Kendrick or Drake, you know, both at the tops of their game for sure. Give me the song of the summer already with this turn in the weather. That's what I want. Roscoe, take care of your foot. You know, be careful when you're walking your dogs. Everybody be careful out there.
Yes, sir. Okay? Absolutely.
You're not going to be in
I'm
a
good.
boot.
I'm good. Not going to be in a boot. I was able to avoid that. Let's just say city living. We've got some potholes. We've got some dips and stuff. And then if you're not looking and it's dark outside and you're wearing some Crocs that have no stabilization, your ankle could go this way, your foot can go that way. And then all of a sudden you're like me, you got a grade 2 foot sprain, but we will press on.
Talk it out, my friend. We're out of time. Thanks to everybody for watching on YouTube here on the Barroom Network stream of the Mac and Reed Show. Remember to follow at Barroom Network for all of the Bears coverage you want and need and all Chicago sports and beyond. Follow me at The Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. If you've missed any of the show, it'll be on YouTube after this, as well as Spotify, iTunes for the audio-only versions. Remember to like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. For now, we say deuces. Be good to each other out there. So long, everybody.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.